Senator, thank you very much. We know your time is very valuable, and we thank you for taking the time to speak with us on this very important topic. I know you just met with County Attorney Rachel Mitchell and DCS Director Catherine Patak. You had just mentioned what was entailed in that meeting.
So we met yesterday in a confidential review of Rebecca Baptiste's case, and we went over the timelines, we went over the calls, the result of the calls, and we were able to really see, we got a little bit of an insight into what may have gone wrong and how to fix it.
Are you able to share any of that?
Yesterday's meeting is confidential. However, both Director Patak and County Attorney Mitchell, we had met separately the week before, which inspired yesterday's meeting. And I provided you the tool that the hotline uses when somebody calls in. And we reviewed those questions, and we discovered that it doesn't capture everything that it needs to capture when somebody calls in and is saying that somebody's been abused or harmed. And and that's something that we have to really take a look at, and that's what we want to work on during the task force. And so you have the hotline tool, then it's if it meets criminal threshold, and there's a lot of different thresholds that things have to meet in order for DCS to come out and investigate.
And with the task force, what are they being required to do? What is the overall scope of the task force?
So the task force is, well, it's comprised of individuals from DCS, County Attorney Mitchell, along with some of her staff. We have, I'm inviting someone from Empower, which was Rebecca's school, and we have former law enforcement, former DCS worker, we have parents and governing board members, and so it's a diverse group of individuals that we will look at the tools that they use when the calls come in, and really figure out what is a capture. When a investigator goes out and meets the child, are they advanced forensic interviewers? Are they actually doing the proper interviews, or are they checking boxes? And some of the things that we notice with cases is that if they are not trained in an advanced forensic interview process, they will not capture what has happened to that child. And that's the very first step in stopping the harm for these children that are being harmed in state care.
After meeting with the county attorney and the DCS director, are there any changes that can be implemented immediately that could possibly save a life?
So I'm touring the hotline on Thursday. I'm going to spend some time in there and listen to calls as they come in. And I do believe that we can make some changes to policies, which is internal with DCS, that does not require legislative action. Those things can happen right away. And then we are looking at what we can do legislatively. And that is what the work of the task force will be, to come up with what that'll be.
You know, unfortunately, being in this position for so long, we've heard this time and time again. Every time there's some sort of lapse, that there's going to be a new committee or a task force. What's going to be different about this one?
So what's different about this one is that we're actually taking action, and we're listening to the voices that matter, that are experienced. And you know, I'm a new lawmaker, but I came here to make a difference, and I came here to be effective. And so when I put my staff and myself into something, we're going to ensure that it's effective.
We're about a month out from Rebecca Baptiste being murdered. What have we learned from her case so far?
What we've learned is the processes were followed, and we have to review those processes to ensure that we're capturing the right information. We were able to see yesterday in my confidential meeting just where there were some things that could have been done better. And did the individuals who performed the work break the law? I'm not sure they did that, but I just know that we can do better. And when you have a child who's been hurt or abused by someone they love, or someone, a foster parent, they may not share everything when they're being asked questions because there's a lot of fear with them. So if individuals that are the abusers are in the same room that they're being asked questions of, they most likely will not tell the truth. And that is something that we have to take a look at. Where are these children being interviewed? And is the abuser in the room or in the room next door? And we have to ensure that when these children are being interviewed that they're safe and they feel that they can answer safely and the abuser's not right there with them.
We're also about a month out from when Zaria Dodd was murdered. What have we learned from that case?
So Zaria was in a group home, and one of the things with children who go into foster care, and particularly with the group homes, we always have to remember that they're children, and the initial event that transpired that put them into care was to no fault of their own. They were abused or neglected by typically an adult. And when we look at Zaria's case, and she was in a group home. When you're in a group home, you do get to leave. You can go to your friend's house. You can go to the park, and that's hard to dissect and see what went wrong there. And I did recently learn that she had felt threatened by the individual that had gotten her pregnant. And so what we want to look at there is if an individual in care is feeling threatened by someone, what are their avenues to get a restraining order, and is that something that we could expedite when it is somebody that is in care? That would be one step. And with the group homes, there's many of them, and some have great reputations and some don't. And we also have to take a look at what's going on in these group homes. What's the culture there? Are these children who are there, do they feel accepted? Do they feel loved? Do they feel like it is home? Are there, for safety and security, are there cameras? Are there alarms on the windows? And so it is something that we are taking a look at, and that is really going through the stakeholder group. We'll be assessing with the group homes and how to really handle that.
A teenager being impregnated by a 36-year-old man, should that have not raised an alarm and a red flag, and should people have stepped in immediately?
Absolutely. I'm not aware if the group home was aware of that situation, but that is something that should have sounded the alarm immediately.
We are now 6 months away from the Emily Pike murder. What have we learned in that case?
With Emily Pike, she was horrifically abused prior to her 911 call. She is an individual who was abused for most likely most of her life until she finally thought to seek help and called 911. And she was taken away from her home while her last perpetrator got to stay in his home with grandma. And all she wanted to do was go home. And so we have to take a look at, when you have a tribal child and you take them away from what they know as home and you put them in the valley, are we meeting their needs? And one of the things that we learned when I met with the tribe is the tribe CPS and the state DCS don't share information. So Emily's history did not go with her to the group home, so they had no idea what had happened to her before. And I think it's very important, and we have one tribe who's agreed to share that information so that the group homes or the people that are now caring for her are aware of the trauma that she had experienced, so that people can take care of her and make sure that she's getting the proper treatment and feel like she is in a safe home. And I don't think, well, actually I know that the system absolutely failed Emily.
When you look at these 3 high-profile cases, obviously they've been in the news for the last 6 months. Are you aware of how many children have actually died in DCS care?
From the beginning, I'm not aware of that. I don't have the answer for that, and I'll get it to you. Yeah, I'm going to get it to you. But I think that starting, coming in being a new lawmaker and to have 3 deaths in this time is absolutely unacceptable. It's horrific what has happened, and we have to make sure that no more children are harmed or murdered by their abusers.
I know you speak of being a new lawmaker. Catherine Patak is also new to DCS as a director. Should she lose her job, the fact that there have been 3 children murdered under her care?
So Director Patak is new, and she has been very, she communicates with me, she meets with me, and she wants change just as much as I do. And when you look at the 3 cases, there have been things going on for a long time with all of them. And so if this was new, I would probably have a different answer, but I actually believe that Director Patak wants change just as much as we do.
What have you learned about the system overall? Are there enough resources within DCS to handle all these cases? And more importantly, are there enough resources to act immediately when there are red flags?
At DCS, only 15% of their staff have been there longer than 5 years. And so there's an extreme turnover, typically around the 2-year mark. And so getting that experienced, confident caseworker is challenging. And we do have to invest in experienced, confident caseworkers, because they will approach someone's home, someone's abused, they're going to approach it very differently than somebody who's new and still scared and still trying to figure it out. And so if we're able to have those people stay, they've been in for 2 years, and if we can make, do something that empowers them to stay longer and still feel passionate about the work and wanting to help children, I think that's worth investing in.
Why so much turnover?
It's a hard job. You're knocking on someone's door and you're asking an adult questions about them having harmed their child. So I would imagine that there's a lot of fear and a lot of adrenaline going on when they're going into these homes, and they're most likely not treated very well. So I would imagine that there's a lot of emotion in their job. So, and it doesn't pay very much, which is why it's worth investing in.
I know you said Director Catherine Patak perhaps shouldn't lose her job. Who should be held responsible?
So we have to look at what happened. Like my confidential review of Rebecca Baptiste's case yesterday gave us an insight into how many people touched that case. And while we didn't spend enough time to figure out where the actual harm was related to DCS, like who was the person, I do believe we need to look at that in the cases. Who are the ones that are making the decisions to go out or not go out on a case, or to remove or not remove a child? And so with Director Patak, I do believe that she wants change, and I do believe that she's leading DCS in the right way. And so now that has to roll down to the employees, that they understand that the leadership wants change and the leadership wants to save kids from being harmed and murdered.
I'm sure that the task force will look into the procedures and policies on when communication is made from whomever about a particular situation and case. But I think what's alarming to a lot of people is not only did you have in the Rebecca Baptiste case, not only did you have Empower contact DCS several times, you also had the Phoenix Police Department contact DCS as well. At what threshold should that raise an immediate flag and should result in action?
So we actually did discuss putting triggers into place when there are multiple calls into one case. And so from Empower, they called 12 times and only 1 met the threshold for action, which is what triggered the conversation around what is their decision-making tool and how do we fix it. And that is the starting place, and it's something that we have to review and we have to look at and make decisions on. And I don't have that answer right now, but I'm hoping to by the end of the year before we go into session.
And that was DCS's response, that only 1 met that trigger point. Yeah. Should 1 not be enough?
I don't know which one of those it was, and so if that was the last one, I do know that they were checking Rebecca Baptiste's home at her home address, and no one was answering. And well, you could speculate that that's when the family moved them to Apache. But I agree with you. I think that it should have, and we need lower thresholds so that more children can be safe and not be harmed.
I want to read what meets the reporting criteria to you.
Yeah.
And it's if a victim is currently under the age of 18, if a victim has been physically, emotionally, or sexually abused, neglected, abandoned, or exploited by a parent, guardian, custodian, or adult member of the victim's household, if a victim is a resident of or present in Arizona, and the identity or current location of the child victim's family, or the person suspected of abuse or neglect is known or can be reasonably ascertained. Is that enough as far as a criteria to result in immediate action, or will this be taken up by the task force, and will this be reviewed and possibly repurposed and changed?
It will be taken up by the task force, and I provided you today, I think it's 4 or 5 documents that we are going to be really studying, and I don't believe that meets, hold on here. I do believe we need lower thresholds. I think that what you read probably is not helping our kids.
What was the mood yesterday in that meeting that you had with the county attorney and the DCS director?
It's very sad what happened. And then there's a very strong motivation for change and ensuring that these things don't happen again.
And how often will this task force meet after their initial meeting?
We will meet multiple times. I would say probably meet about twice a month through the end of the year. There's a lot to look at, and we want to make sure that we make the right changes so that they stick this time. And so that would be my assessment at this time, and I'd be happy to keep you updated as well. So.
And as far as what comes out of the task force, are you able to implement some of that immediately, or do you have to take it to the legislature once they reconvene?
So some of the policies can be changed right away. They do not require legislative action. So the goal is to do that, and with my meeting on Thursday is one more step in that right direction. And any law changes will have to wait till the legislative session.
What's your overall take away from what you've learned in the past month or so with regard to all these cases and more?
That we're failing the children in state care, and we need to change. And we need effective change so that sticks, so that this doesn't happen again and again, because I don't want to sit in front of you in a year and have one more child having been murdered. And it's time that we fix this problem once and for all.
And are you aware that this has been a compounding problem over the years, or is this something new in your eyes?
I'm aware of DCS and the system within DCS. I was actually a CASA for 5 years and was able to see the inside of it at that time, during the time that I had the cases. I was not aware that it was this extreme, that it was causing children to die.
You announced back in February a probe into Emily Pike. Where is that probe?
So we had our oversight committee hearing. We were provided a lot of information. The tribe was very cooperative, and the first stakeholder meeting as a result of that oversight committee is happening on September 3rd.
With the timeline and everything being spread so far apart, is that the proper timeline?
Well, so our oversight committee hearing was in May, and the stakeholder meeting is in September. And the delay between May and September is the individuals being able to come and participate in the stakeholder meeting.
So it's based on cooperation and agendas and all that stuff.
I think that this legislature is going to support these changes because they want to see kids thriving and not being abused and murdered by their abusers.
And what was their response after the Emily Pike case, the legislature overall? I mean, did you have bipartisan support, and was everybody on board that something needed to be fixed?
Yeah, so our oversight committee is bipartisan, and the overall tone in the legislature was that there was support for this. I don't think any individual that is in that position wants to see this keep happening. I think that we need to fund experienced, confident caseworkers that are effective and that will go out and do their job properly and ensure that the kids that they are checking on are doing well, and when they're not, that they have that ability to intuition or hunch to take action when that is needed.
As this whole thing comes together, task force, your meetings, everything that we've learned over the past couple of months, have you heard from the governor at all?
I have not spoken to the executive. I have only been in communication with Director Patak and her staff.
And do you plan to reach out to her to involve her in any of this?
We will provide a report from the Oversight Committee and we will send that up to her.